The Devil and the Pathology of History Part 2. In the Gnostic system, the devil plays an indispensable role as destroyer, an organic part of the one, necessary to a polymorphous cosmos. There is no accidental lack of perfection, no flaw in his being. He does not defy the divine law, he is part of it. In this instance, as in many others, Gnosticism is a much more coherent explanatory system than either Judaism or Orthodox Christianity. Ironically, the ability of the Gnostic fathers to consciously address the inherent contradictions of contemporary theologies is what caused them to be persecuted and burned as heretics. If they had been given the freedom to express their views, perhaps the violent excesses of later Christianity could have been avoided. Unfortunately, the Church, in its notorious tyranny, would not allow it. Jehovah is indeed a jealous God. The enemy within. While true metaphysical questions must fall in the domain of philosophy, certain aspects of these questions can be illuminated by approaching them from the standpoint of depth psychology. In particular, the concept of the devil acquires considerably more meaning when viewed in the context of psychological study. This is not, of course, to reduce the transcendent potentialities of the divine to mere psychological constructs. However, human conceptions of the divine can be addressed in psychological terms. Indeed, this is the most effective way to do so, for it presumes nothing outside the realm of ordinary experience, and makes no claims to absolute truth. To draw the relationship between psychology and the history of religion, two main assumptions must be made. The first is the existence of the unconscious, a part of the human psyche which exerts an imperceptible force over consciousness. This has been empirically demonstrated time and again by psychologists, but must remain theoretical due to its inherent inaccessibility. The second assumption is the direct relationship between the individual psyche and that of the collective. For they are mutually dependent, logically equivalent concepts. Society is composed of individuals. Individuals are created by society. This does not prove that principles which pertain to the personal unconscious also apply to the collective, but it is suggestive that a close interrelationship exists. With this assumption in mind, one can employ the findings of analytical psychology to illuminate the history of religion. According to Jung, mythology is best understood in terms of metaphors. The divine is a reflection of the whole self. How can humanity conceive of God? Only in terms of human experience. Man makes his idea of God in his own image. True believers would vehemently deny that their views of God are merely projections of what they want to see, and they would be right. Rather, human ideas about the infinite are limited by what they are able to see. When faced with unprecedented hardship, the Hebrews blamed the devil, creator of evil. This in itself posed no problem. The pathological aspects of Judaism and Christianity did not come from the figure of the devil himself. Rather, they were the result of unconscious denial. The undesirable aspects of Yahweh were differentiated from him and assigned to his inferior, Satan. Yet Yahweh's ultimate responsibility for evil was conveniently forgotten. While assertively preaching monotheism, the Jews moved unconsciously toward dualism. This created a rift in the collective psyche of an entire culture which has yet to heal. With the coming of Christ, the perfect man, the tension between Lord and devil increased. The pious Christian was taught to love all things good, God's kingdom, and to revile Satan, his minions, and his works. The fact that Lucifer had his source in God was acknowledged, but the Father could not be seen as the creator of evil. Furthermore, no reconciliation between Christ and Satan, both sons of God, could ever be made. The entire mess of contradictions was never addressed with clarity. These were the symptoms of a diseased society. The inability of the culture to deal with the evil elements within itself led to a sort of mass insanity, in which evil was at first denied altogether, then projected on marginal members of the community. The result of this was further persecution and senseless bloodshed. The Christian community found itself at war with the army of Satan. The world was divided into two camps, the good Christians and the evil others. Thus the brutal crusades were justified as holy wars, and unbelievers were slaughtered in the name of Christ. But the most striking distortion of the message of Jesus came when innocent people were tortured and executed as witches. This was a textbook example of negative projection, placing one's own inferior qualities on another. The evil that the pious Christian could not see within himself was projected on the pagan, the nonconformist, the female, the witch. The admission of evil as a part of one's nature and the commission of evil deeds are in no way the same. On the contrary, the act of facing oneself and owning up to those evils serves to neutralize them. The healthy individual, and the healthy society, suppresses evil consciously. The unhealthy one represses it unconsciously, and ends up acting it out in a perverse manner. And, as more and more unpleasant thoughts are repressed, the unconscious receptacle of evil, the shadow, grows to monstrous proportions. This is the fall of Lucifer,